This is Romo Dunze, and you're listening to the Ballsville podcast.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Good evening, Ballsville gamers, and welcome to another episode of the Ballsville Pod. I am your host, Scott Fitzgerald, aka Ludes for Sale on Sleeper, and the Ballsville Podcast brought to you by the Ballsville Games. Our games combine fantasy football and poker, which create big payouts with great odds. Okay, gamers, we have 4 guests today on the panel. We have Sean Clemens, aka S. Clem, from Viva Las Vegas. What's up, Sean?
What's up, Scott? What's up? Hello, everybody.
We have our El Presidente, Alex Hernandez. He is the president of the Ballsville Games. What's up, Alex?
How's it going, everybody?
And we have a new guest today. He goes by C-Bomb, and he's from way down in Texas. He goes to Texas A&M, and his name is Connor Hathaway. What's up, Connor?
How's it going, everybody? Thanks for having me.
All right. So we're going to, before we unpack everything, we want to just go over a couple things. I want to thank, this whole panel wants to thank all the listeners that have subscribed to our podcast. We're up to 70 now. Second time we've been over 100 views. So it's doing very well. We're really excited. We think we've brought on somebody who can help produce and really get this thing going. And eventually, by the time the point season starts, we want to try to get to 2 podcasts a week for you guys, to give you guys a lot of really good information. So we like the comments on there and all the likes and everything. So we really appreciate everything that you guys do for us. And we just want to give back to you guys because, like I said, this is your guys' show. It's the players' show. So let's get into it. We're going to get into the what we've got going on now with the big game, and I'm gonna I don't need to explain it to you. I'm gonna let Alex explain it because he's our president. So take it on, Alex.
Thank you, Scott. So, well, if you're listening to this, you're probably part of Ballsville, and if you're part of Ballsville, hopefully you're in that 7th division hub, and you already know that we filled the entire 7th division, which is 80 entries, 8 leagues of 10 teams. We filled that in about 26 hours, if that. We opened at 1:30 on a Friday or Saturday, and by 3 o'clock the next day we were done. Wildly impressive. I want to thank everybody who participated in that. Hopefully you were there to grab a spot. If you had plans over the weekend, you probably missed the whole thing. In addition to filling that division, we were also able to fill 3 auction leagues. These auction leagues were all part of a little mini game that we ran for the Division 6 players. These were free to enter with a small cash prize, just a little way of people from Division 6 to get into the auction leagues and try out auction drafts. Normally they wouldn't. Nobody wants to pay into something they don't really understand. But considering it's free, we had a lot of fun with it. So there was a lot of things that happened there, and hopefully you're a part of that too. So now that we've gotten, everything for Division 6 and Division 7 completed, and we're trucking on, next up is going to be Division 8. Division 8 is our all-star division. What this means is this is an opportunity for all the Ballsville players from Divisions 1 through 7 to grab a single entry spot into the leagues for Division 8. We limit it to single entry so that everybody has an opportunity to get a spot. Last year, this was the final division. Based off of the pace of which we filled all of these leagues, this is certainly not going to be the final division this year. But we do want to honor it as a tradition and make it the All-Star League anyway. So you guys can look forward to that. And, that as this podcast releases, we're going to open up that division and allow you to start taking a seat in these leagues so that you can get your entry. And we'll keep entries open and single for probably about a week to make sure that everybody has a chance to get a spot. The 8th division is going to be pretty special this year. So in addition to the Ballsville budget sponsoring what we call bonus leagues, these leagues are going to be for every league that fills, we're going to run a free entry shuffle so that 1 out of 10 of you are going to get a free entry into another league. And because we had a donor who wants to remain anonymous, in his own words, he's had good fortune and he wants to pass it forward. And considering that he loves the Ballsville game, thank you very much, sir. He's contributed a $50 prize for us to put up for bolstered payouts for these leagues. So if you're going to be in one of the first 5 leagues of Division 8, those are going to have $10 added to the payouts. So you're going to be competing for $60. You're going to get a free entry shuffle, 1 of 10 odds, and you get your entry into the All-Star leagues. So this is something that we're doing in conjunction with this person to give back to you guys as a token of our appreciation for playing with us, for being with us along the way. And what makes these special is that these leagues do not open to the public. These are single entry for you guys. And if we have any problems filling, the managers will come in or we'll open it up to multiple entries so that you guys can have another entry into another league. But single entry, everybody's going to have a shot at a spot there. And that's going to be the conclusion for the big game, the best ball game for a good while. And we're going to take a little hiatus after Division 8. We are going to go and add 2 leagues, at least 2 leagues, to our Dragons of Dynasty game. So we're going to backtrack to game number 1, the Dynasty game. We're going to add 2 leagues there. We have a pretty high demand. We have a waiting list. If you want to be added to that, you can, reach out to your managers and let us know, and we add you to the list. Right now, it's about 18 people deep, so there's maybe about 6 spots left. We decided to add to that a long time ago. And we also have come to the conclusion that this year we're going to be opening up our redraft game a little bit early. So we're going to expect Division 8. We're going to expect an expansion to the Dragons of Dynasty, and we're going to open up the redraft in June. And the redraft is going to be low stakes, mid stakes, and high stakes games. And these leagues will be open June, July, August. And as the demand comes, we'll fill these leagues. And they're going to have the same, Ballsville formula where you can win in your leagues. And then you can take your money and you can invest it in your team and go up against other league winners and go for bigger payouts. Last year we had multiple winners of over the $400 mark, and those were just $20 entries. So this year we're going to have low stakes at 25, mid stakes at 50, and high stakes at 100. And you get to pick, as many of those spots as you want, whatever you want to pay into. So big things on the horizon. We're going to keep expanding our big game, and the best ball game is going to be open at the same time as the redraft game. And if you're a Ballsville player, you have the option, and you'll have windows to each hub, so you can go and you can join whatever you want, whatever suits you. And we've got you all off season. We appreciate you guys playing with us, and we want to make sure that we facilitate the requests that you guys have given us, and we're just going to keep on rolling with it. Thanks to our managers here.
And Alex, where can the guests how can they find our games?
Well, if you're part of Ballsville, you're in the hubs. Every time we have a new release, every time we have a new we call them hubs, they open up. They don't draft. They're just a place of information. So if you're one of the Ballsville players, that's how you can find us. If you're listening and you're not part of Ballsville, you can just leave a comment, or you can come and get one of us. We're on Sleeper. The overlays are going to have our gamer tags. C-bombs, easy to find. There's no other loots for sale. S-Clem, Westlex. So find us any which way you want. One thing you can look for is the magic of overlays, right? We have manager accounts, big manager blue. Manager purple is for the Dynasty game. And then we have our redraft managers, and all these accounts pop up. If you're in a Sleeper and you're in the chats, the best ball chat, the redraft chat. We pop up there, but we typically wait until all the Ballsville players have had a chance to fill up the leagues, and then we go and recruit. And sometimes they don't even make it to that chat because our guys are so amazing.
Well, thank you, Alex. Really appreciate that. Yeah, it's Sleeper for all you people that don't know the Sleeper platform. You can just download it on your Apple Store or the Play Store for Android. It's free. You just create a user account. You can go in there and you can search for friends, which you would search our names, and we can send you a link right to our hubs, and you guys can get right into the games. People ask a lot about well, who handles the money? What do we do? That you'd have to download the League Safe app, which is it's the app that everybody uses on for playing fantasy football on the web. The money's secure, and as far as our platform goes, Alex is super transparent with the money. He has doc sheets with all the breakdowns of the money and the exact payouts, and we've had absolutely the 4 years that Alex has been doing this. I mean, there's been no time where nobody got their money or it was late or this and that. So that's what a lot of the Ballsville players say and like about our platform is the transparency and how fast you get paid. Because when it's Christmas time, you got to pay bills and you need that money.
Yes.
So I think we can all concur to that. So before I get into the news and nuggets, I just want to go back to Connor real quick. And Connor, let the listeners know how you got involved in Ballsville and one thing that you really like about the platform.
Yeah, so I joined, I think it was one of the Dragon Dynasty leagues just off like the Sleeper little chat thing. I joined it, had a fun time doing that. And then Alex Westlex invited me to join up as a manager doing the Ballsville games. I've had a really fun time. I was big into best ball last year on Underdog, but Sleeper, you get to talk trash during your drafts. You can hate on somebody's pick or say, oh, you sniped me. And that's one thing you don't get to do on Underdog. Somebody snipes you and you're just like, oh, dang it. And you just move on with your day. But Sleeper, you can definitely talk trash about them and let them know that they're on your radar. So one thing I like about the Ballsville game is definitely just like the communication. I think everybody in the Discord especially is real close. They talk, make stepbrothers jokes and stuff like that. So that's one of the things, just the community that it is now.
That's awesome. Well, we're so glad you're on, and you're definitely going to be a big part of Ballsville going forward. You're definitely in the Discord quite a bit. And just for the little bit of interaction I've had with you, you're definitely going to be an asset to us. So thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate that.
That's what I saw.
Absolutely.
Connor here is very active and he's involved, and I think you said you're like in your mid-20s or something, but he's pretty wise and well put together, and it's something that I kind of look out for is how thorough and detailed you are. And
You look how clean his house is.
Hey, I thought you could see my background, but I'm actually moving right now, so I have all these boxes in the background. So I was like,
hey, if you just saw my background a couple of weeks ago, I changed it. All I had was you all boxes in the back.
Yeah, mine's worse than all of you guys, I promise.
So, all right. Well, all right, we'll get into some news, notes, and nugs. And we're going to start off with Josh Allen. So offensive coordinator basically is saying, let Josh cook. And, it's going to be his offense. So I'm not going to even get into this. I'm going to go right to the Bills expert here. Sean, what do you think about this news for Josh Allen? Basically just letting him cook.
I mean, is that any different than what we've seen pretty much his entire career? I mean, let's be honest, like Josh has been pretty much that whole team. So, to me, like I'm honestly on board. I kind of have to be. This is always the time of year where no matter what, like I still think the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl. So I'm always cloud nine for the next like 3 months or so. Yeah, but I honestly do think that we're going to be okay. I think the loss of Diggs, if you watch the last 5 weeks or so last season, when we really didn't utilize Diggs like the number one receiver he was prior to that, with Joe Brady's offense going forward, I really do feel like it's kind of more of a everybody's going to eat, like he said, they're going to spread the ball around. I really think the number one target is going to be Kincaid. So it's going to be, Kincaid sitting there with a good amount of targets. Everybody else will be right about the same level of targets, in my opinion. I honestly think Shakir will probably be second on the team, maybe Samuel between those two. Keon, I expect to be coming up towards the end of the season, but I don't think he'll be coming on early enough to where he's going to be the second in targets overall. So, yeah, I really do expect that. I expect a lot more, running with Josh, actually, or designed runs, called run plays and not just scramble plays from him. So, I anticipate QB1 to, at worst QB3. If he drops any farther than that, I'd be surprised.
Do you think he struggles without Diggs like Rodgers did with Adams? You think he has
Not really, because
in the
Josh's
passing?
game didn't depend on Diggs the way that Rodgers' game depends on Adams. Josh has scramble ability and escapability and then leap ability that Rodgers never had, so I
Didn't
just
need him
don't think
last
that
season.
Josh's game relies that much on it.
He also turns the ball over a lot more. Let's just put that out there.
Hey, you know what? Like I said, somebody had this argument with me in one of my leagues recently, and I'll take 50 plus touchdowns if he's gonna, throw picks in the teens. I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Like that's not gonna bother me because that's still gonna equal wins. So, the everybody's talking about the Bills, dropping off too. They're not really discussing their defense or just discussing their offense. Our defense turnover is massive. So, Josh might be required to do more than he was prior because our defense isn't as good. So, I just don't anticipate the drop off everybody else's.
Alex, do you think in a super flex format is Josh Allen still the 101, or is he the 101 in your opinion?
In a 12 team, yeah, I think if you're trying to get that elite quarterback, I think it's still Josh Allen. I agree with a lot of what Sean said. I don't think that his game was dependent on Stephon Diggs. We saw it at the end of last year when Diggs was, trashing it up all over the place. Uh, he was part of the game plan, and he was actually detrimental to the production for the Bills. So if you take that attitude out of the equation, and then now you give Josh the ability to spread the ball around and do as he sees fit, and kind of just become the captain out there on the field, I think that you're kind of unleashing the beast there, and he has massive upside potential. So I'm with Sean on this one.
What about you, Connors? You're 101?
10 man, I'm taking CMC 101, and a 10 man best ball. I also have Mahomes over him. I think Mahomes 6 point per pass touchdown. And then I have Allen at the 103 usually, but getting in so many drafts, I'm taking Allen at the 101 occasionally. I'm taking Mahomes at the 101. I'm taking CMC. I'm taking all three of those guys. I think could be deserved to go the 101.
Yeah, I think I'm with if they're going to let Josh cook, that means he's going to keep running the ball. Now they did bring in Ray Davis, where I think they're he's definitely going to be involved. So maybe they want to try to take a little off of Josh's plate as far as rushing ability. But I still think Josh is in his prime. He's going to have to carry that offense, and so I like Josh over Mahomes at the 101 in a super flex, and even in a 10 man. I'd much rather take the quarterback over an aging running back. Every day, all day. So that's me. So we'll move on to another guy that's been in the news. So the Jets on a Jets podcast, Aaron Rodgers said Malachi Children of the Corley is his favorite receiver in the draft. So I think often injured Mike Williams, I don't think that guy's going to stay healthy. I love Malachi Corley. Right now, he's going in like the 14th, 15th round. I think by the time the preseason games start, especially maybe after those first couple preseason games, if Corley can be heavily involved, I think he could move up to like a 9th or 10th round pick. And I think that's a guy that I'm trying to get on all my best ball teams, and especially I'm trying to get him in my dynasty leagues. We'll go to Alex. What do you think about Mr. Children of the Corn?
I was in a rookie draft recently, and I took him at the 203. Well, to be honest, my wife took him at the 203. It was her dynasty league, and I was helping her out and stuff. And just the crowd just lost it. Everyone was like, "No, that's my guy," and everything. So I think his values already started to rise. You know, we watched him fly through the third and up into the late second, and now he's going at the early second. And some people are going to start to reach for him. So I think his value is on the rise already. And then with this news blurb coming out, I don't think he reaches the first round. There's too much talent in this year's draft. But I think, the early second, he's going to be off by the time you get to the 205 or something. So
Do you have him after Keon? Is he right after Keon for you then in your rankings right now?
I'd have to look. I definitely have Coleman above him. I think him versus Adonai is probably what I'm looking at. That can go either way.
What about you, Connor?
Yeah, I agree. I've been looking at him this all offseason. He's going to be the third option until Mike
Williams gets hurt again.
Yeah, week 4. But
It's preseason, right?
Yeah, right. But yeah, I think he's going to creep up there. I don't think he's going to quite creep up to the top of the second. I think that's a little early for him. I've seen him go, I think 210 ish. I think that's probably one of the earliest I've seen him go. But yeah, I like him. I think I'll be comfortable right now taking him around the 205 at the earliest, maybe 206. So yeah, right after Adonai Mitchell, right before Adonai Mitchell.
I think there'd have to be a run on receivers starting the second round for me to take him that early. I feel like because I still got guys like Roman Wilson over him, just because of where he falls in the offense, and stuff like that. So obviously Keon, we talked about that already. So yeah, I like him, I do, but like you said, 210 I think is a nice little sweet spot right there. I'm okay with
Xavier Leggett, someone that fell pretty hard in that draft. I think he's falling in a lot.
He's been dropping in a lot of drafts I've noticed lately too. Which I would actually consider him over Leggett, because of the fact that I like what I've been seeing from him and I'm not 100% sold on Leggett.
Got you. All right, we'll move on to the Cowboys and Jalen Tolbert. So there's Michael Gallup's gone. They're that offense is going to be very target funneled to CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cook. So they're really looking for a third receiver, and Jalen Tolbert is somebody that could help you. Somebody that's not going to be like a super early pick or anything like that, but maybe some guy that you can get later in your drafts that could sneak in there and help you on bye weeks, injuries, and like I said, with that offense, that's going to be it's not going to have very many playmakers, besides basically just Lamb and possibly Ferguson and a little bit of Cooks. Tolbert can get in there and possibly help you in those late rounds. Anything on Jalen Tolbert, Connor?
Yeah, he's been somebody I've been actually targeting. I've seen him go undrafted in some of these best ball drafts.
For free.
So I'm picking him up every time in the last round at worst. He has an easy path to, wide receiver 2 on the team. He could easily pass Kutz. I think Kutz is 32-ish. So yeah, I think he could easily be up there. I'm not expecting him to, ball out. I'm taking him in the last round of a best ball draft, but
is Cooks really the solid wide receiver 2? I know he's the fantasy wide receiver 2, but is he really their wide receiver 2 in that offense? I think he's kind of more that slot guy, more so than he's like that wide receiver 2 guy. So I could see Tolbert taking that job, easily.
What about you, Alex?
Okay, tell me if you recognize any of these names. Ryan Flournoy, Jalen Brooks, and Kavontae Turpin.
Hey, Turpin, come on.
Turpin, that's about it.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. That's the rest of the wide receiver core over there in Dallas. So the door is wide open for Jalen Tolbert. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time he's had opportunity. So it kind of just boils down, like you guys said, what Brandon Cooks has left in the tank. As far as the later rounds going, I'm not a fan of Jalen Tolbert. I've been leaning more towards like the Josh Reynolds side, of that equation. That's my deep sleeper, to be honest with you.
So you like them older guys, huh, Alex?
He's done all right in the past, just not a Tolbert fan. I think he's had the opportunity to prove that, he kind of buckled underneath it. And, I'm guilty of being one of those guys that had him as a deep sleeper 2 years ago and, kind of burned me.
So is your opinion like based on maybe the fact that you're slightly jaded from that?
Oh, absolutely. Because he has an opportunity there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I kind of agree with Connor. It's the path is there for him to take it. He's one injury away from possibly being the number 2. And then the Cowboys, I don't know what they're doing. They didn't bring nothing in on offense, so it's like besides old oatmeal pants Elliott, so they didn't bring anyone else to help Dak on the offense. So yeah, it just like I said, somebody at the end of your draft, you could do worse. And then now we're going to move on to Brandon Ayuk. So this is very interesting because he's looking for a contract extension. He wants St. Brown money, which is about 28 mil per year. The franchise tag, I think, is 21. So what I've been telling everyone is teams typically in the draft they tip their hand on the players that they draft. And the early draft capital with Ricky Pearsall is basically should tell you that he is their future if he turns out. So if they pay Brandon Ayuk, then I think Debo might be on his way out. If they don't pay him, then maybe he's on his way out because Pearsall's the future and they can only keep one of these guys. So it's very interesting. I'm still up in the air. I still think they would probably move on from Debo just because he's an older asset and just pay Ayuk the money that he deserves because he did have a pretty amazing year last year. So I'm kind of looking at the tea leaves and saying that they were going to move on from one of these receivers this time next year. We'll start with Sean. What do you think about this news, Sean?
I'm pretty much lockstep with what you just mentioned. I mean, I do feel like that draft pick basically told us that one of those 2 receivers is going to be gone soon. Whether it's this season or not, one of the 2 is definitely going to be gone. So, I absolutely expect personally, I think it's going to be Ayuk. I think it's going to be because they can't afford him. They're going to have to pay Purdy, and they're going to look at Pearsall this season, see what he can do, and if he can kind of fill that role to an extent, then they're going to be just fine letting Ayuk test the market and moving on. So that's kind of my thought process on what's going to happen there. I think they like that Debo has a different skill set than Pearsall brings to the table. So they're going to want to be able to keep that versatility available to them. And I think Debo will be cheaper. So those 2 factors make me feel like Ayuk is the one that's going to be down the road. So I actually, in my opinion, though, that almost makes him even more valuable because of the fact that I think if he goes somewhere, specifically Dynasty speaking, if he goes somewhere that, he becomes like that solid number 1, like say you put him in Buffalo with a Keon Coleman, who's an up and coming guy, and a Josh Allen throwing him the ball, and all of a sudden, like Ayuk becomes a potential top 10 receiver in the league. So, that's kind of where I'm at with him. I definitely think that tea leaves, like you said, I think that to me, Ayuk is the one that's moving on. So I don't fully anticipate it being before the season's out.
What about you, Alex? You think it could be something at the trade deadline or something like that? Or do you think this is going to be something that's going to bleed over into next year?
I think we're going to find out real soon. June 1st is a big day. That's when all the numbers change and, you get different cap hits after June 1st. That St. Brown money, I mean, that's like 30 million a year or something for 5 years. That's way up there. I don't think Ayuk's proven that he's on Monroe St. Brown good. The he's done good in certain places, but he hasn't
People
really
forget Ayuk was in the doghouse for a while in the beginning of his career.
Yeah,
he had a hard time to start things out.
So it's pretty ambitious of him. If somebody wants to pay him that, I don't think it's going to be San Francisco that pays him that. I think, Debo, gets a contract extension eventually and retires as a 49er. That's what I believe will happen. I think they let Ayuk walk. I think Pearsall's the Ayuk backup as opposed to the Debo backup. So,
Connor, what about you? He has had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and he had a career high 1,342 yards in a run first offense. I mean, Shanahan's offenses are run first, and this guy put up 1,300 yards with Debo, Kittle, and McCaffrey there.
Yeah, if you would have asked me right before the draft, I would have said Ayuk's gone. I mean, he was liking. I think him and his brother. I think it was his brother were liking tweets on X on Twitter about how the San Francisco underutilized him in the Super Bowl, and that's why they lost. I mean, there's all types of rumors out there about him, and I would have guaranteed he left before the draft if you asked me before then. After the draft, I was kind of surprised they took Pearsall. I was thinking he was going to slip later anyway, but I flipped to Debo, and now I'm not honestly I'm not sure. I don't know which one's gone. They could both stay. Who knows?
Gotcha. Yeah, it'll definitely be pretty interesting. I mean, I don't think anything will happen towards the trade deadline because it's going to be the Niners going to be a contending team, but yeah, it's going to definitely be an interesting topic in the offseason next year. I don't blame them for wanting to get paid, but yeah, it'll definitely be very interesting. And the one last bit of nugget I want to get into is, so there's been rumblings already that the Bears offense is struggling in OTAs. The Caleb's been missing open receivers. The receivers aren't running correct routes. A lot of false start penalties, which you should probably going to get with a rookie quarterback. But the way I look at it, the Bears have a pretty good defense. I mean, they added some pieces at the end of last year. They got better. So I think the Bears could be a sneaky, pretty good defense this year if you're punting on, your defenses in these home leagues. So I'll go to Connor first since he's a young guy and this is a young offense. Are you worried? Do you think the offense is off to a slow start, and do you think the offense might be the problem, or is it just they're running up against a good defense, in practice?
I think it's just more the media speak. 2 years ago we had Jamar Chase, the ball is too big. So, I mean, I think it's just a lot. I mean, Jamar Chase was falling,
That cost me Jamar Chase in my big league too, because I didn't draft him when I had the opportunity, thanks to all his preseason drops.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just a lot of that. Honestly, I don't take too much of this media speak into consideration. So whether it's the defense or the offense, I honestly don't think it's either of them. I'm sure they're doing fine, just like every other NFL team is. So,
what about you, Alex?
Hold on a second. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Jamar Chase, the top three were Najee, Jamar, and Kyle Pitts, right? It was Najee, right? Because I think I took Najee over Jamar Chase.
I think it was. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Oh man.
Either one of those other two, honestly.
I hope Caleb's not a bust. I took Caleb at the 1-on-1 in one of my newer leagues, and I think it's a little bit worrisome just because we haven't heard anything contradicting that. I mean, the sources for that news blurb about the 7 interceptions, no receptions. I mean, that was a lot of suspect news sources, but we haven't heard anything contradicting that. We haven't heard any kind of praise, and you take it all with a grain of salt, but give us some positive, give us a little bit of hope there.
What about you? What are you looking at this, Sean? What do you think?
I mean, honestly, I think every season starts out this way. Defenses are always a step ahead of the offenses early on, so I don't think it's a big deal. He's got, rookie receiver in there. He's learning a new offense. They got young players. I don't really think it's a big deal. I give it, if we're talking about the same problem week 2 of the preseason, okay, now we really got to concern ourselves with this. But right now, I think it's just people that are trying to make some news happen when it's a slow news week.
And just let the gamers know. I love when this stuff happens, because if you're a Dynasty owner, you just go out and you find that Caleb owner who's panicking right now, and you throw something at him. But I had a guy when Chase came out and he got hurt and was, didn't look like he was going to do much his rookie year. Guy sent me an offer for Jamar Chase for T. Higgins straight up, and I couldn't get to the computer fast enough. So I mean, stuff like that you want to pounce on as a Dynasty owner, because the average guy might be freaking out right now, especially a guy who's rebuilding. He takes Caleb number 1. He's like, oh my god, he's hearing this news and he's like panicking, and oh my god, I'm gonna have another crappy year and this and that. And even like the secondary parts like Rome, or DJ Moore. I mean, you can target these guys that might be panicking with a lot of this coach speak and all this stuff that's going on. And like Sean said, we're not even in June yet. I mean, wait until before you start panicking and hitting the panic button and selling off your future assets that you spent high draft picks on. Let this play out until the preseason. Now, if he plays, most likely these rookies are going to play every preseason game except maybe the last one. And if they have 3 stinkers or 2 stinkers the first preseason game, then you might want to start to panic a little bit. But I mean, I'd give it at least till halfway through the season before you start hitting the panic button. I mean, this is a long season. These guys just started. So the moral of the story is just don't panic and let somebody take advantage of you and sharks like us in these dynasty leagues that'll just.
And on the flip side of that coin, like if you're out there and you're contending and you're looking to make a push this year, like target a guy like Keenan Allen right now. Yeah. You can get him so cheap in general because everybody assumes this is his last season anyway, and he's going to be even cheaper now. And you can go out there. I mean, he's going to be easy to get, and it's going to be a good, solid depth piece to make a championship run with. So like that's the kind of like situations that these types of little news reports could potentially bring up if you've got somebody in a fantasy league that is that type of knee-jerk reactionary manager.
And that's definitely a fair point. So, okay, well that wraps up our news, notes, and nuggets section, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to move on to, I put this in this week. I think it'd be interesting. Put a little more perspective. Now we're going to name our top 5 offenses, and these aren't going to really be like, I didn't want it to be like, these are just top 5 offenses. I mean, it's, where it's just, you're looking at statistics only. These top 5 offenses I put in, and the way I'm judging my top 5 offenses are how many players on this offense I think will be fantasy gold throughout the year. How many of these guys are going to score you points every week, and what kind of environments do they play in? So that's how I made my top list. Not just these are the top 5 offenses because we'd all have the same. So we're going to have different lists because I like different players than maybe Connor does, or I like different players more than Sean does. So and what we're going to do is we're going to list our 5, and then each of us are going to talk about 2 teams and then go on from there. So I'll list my top 5 from 5 to 1. Mine's are the Falcons, the Colts, Texans, Rams, and Lions. So I'm going to get into the 2 that I like, and I'll start with the Colts. My targeted player is going to be Richardson. You got JT, you got Pittman, Josh Downs, Donnie Mitchell, and if you want to punt on tight end, you got Jelani Woods. They played 9 out of 17 games. Now I'm only counting 17 games because in fake football we don't play week 18, so it's 17 games. 9 out of the 17 games are in a dome, so we don't have to worry about the weather. As long as Rich stays healthy this year. He could be his ceiling's 101 in a super flex. JT's still a solid running back. Pittman's ascending as a wide receiver. You still have Downs and Mitchell coming in, and Jelani Woods I think is a good punt tight end. So I kind of like that. That offense is I think that offense is ascending. So those are players I'm going to try to pick from. My top team is the Lions. And they just have a plethora of players. I mean, you have Goff, Gibbs, Monty, St. Brown, J-Mo, Laporta, same offensive coordinator. They play 13 out of 17 games in a dome, and they play 1 game in December outside, and that's against Chicago. Everything else, no weather. So the Lions have always been a team that plays terrible in cold weather. In those late years, they got a favorable schedule because they did really well. So I got them as my number 1 offense to target for fantasy players because I think all those players are going to be in those top positions at their prospective positions. Even J-Mo, I think, will have a better year than he had last year. But Laporta finished top tight end. Gibbs is already in high stakes leagues. Gibbs is already ascended into the first round. St. Brown is into the first round. So I got them as number one. So Sean, what are your top five?
So before I move on from your top five, I do have to challenge you on one thing. His ceiling is 1.2 in a super flex behind Josh. Just make sure that we clarify that one thing there. But everything else you said was perfect.
Got you.
So
I
so
said
moving on to my
potential.
top five.
Bills
Moving
better
on to
be
my
hitters.
top five here, brother. So I
Yeah,
got I'm gonna start on 5-1. I got Falcons, Texans, Dolphins, Lions, and Chiefs, right? You could make the argument to swap the Lions and Chiefs, in my opinion. I just did it that way because I didn't want to have the same first one as Scott did. So I swapped mine around. I put the Chiefs at number one and Lions at number two, but it's a 1A, 1B scenario, in my opinion. The two teams I really want to discuss though, out of my five, and I'll list the players on each team and then I'll talk about them because it's literally for the same reasons. They both these teams are a lot of the same exact factors as to why I put two teams on this list. So, with the Falcons, everybody knows their top players. You got London, Pitts, Cousins, Bijan. I slip Algier in there because I do think Algier is a solid player and will score some fantasy points. So, and I mean, you could even, reach for Mooney if you're in a late round scenario and you want to get a flyer guy. So, on the Texans, you got Stroud, Collins, Diggs, Dell. I'm forgetting their back right now off the top of my head. Guys, help me out.
Mixon, and Pierce.
Mixon, thank you. Mixon. So, there's a lot of the situations are the same for these teams. They're both going to be playing high-powered throwing offenses. I do expect the Falcons to run the ball more, but I also expect them to do a lot more dump-off passes. And one of the key factors for me is neither of these quarterbacks run the ball. They are both passers. They throw the ball and they dump it off a lot. So I expect that to generate more points for these guys, right? As far as that's concerned. So not just for the quarterbacks themselves, but for the other players on the team. So with this exercise, the way that we're doing it, that was a really big factor for me and how this works, along with, the fact that they're going to play in some good weather games, and, the Falcons have one of the easiest schedules in the season. So, those are kind of the main reasons I picked those two teams to kind of discuss in this exercise. And it's really, it's an intriguing exercise because it really made me think about, that aspect of spreading out the points, not so much just one player on that team getting all the points.
Right. And just another quick stat to go along with what Sean said. Both the Houston Texans and Atlanta Falcons have 11 of their 17 games are indoors. So we don't have to worry about wind, snow, and any of that bad weather. We're going to go on to Connor. Connor, go ahead and break down your list.
Yeah, I'm just surprised he didn't have the Bills there. Where are they?
I tried, man. I really tried.
One, he's not even on your list. But so I have 6. I have an honorable mention to the Ravens. Depends on your lead format. If you're in a half PPR, 4-point pass touchdown, I think you want Lamar, you want Henry, you want Mark Andrews. But starting my list, I had Chiefs at 5, Dolphins 4, Lions 3, Texans, and then the 49ers at 1. I mean, I think the 49ers, pretty self-explanatory. You got CMC, Ayuk, Kittle, Debo. You got Pearsall there. You got the other rookie Cowan there. So they have plenty of options. Young. They can spread the ball. They have tremendous depth. And then the other team I want to talk about was the Dolphins. I have at 4. Last year we saw them put up 70, like almost multiple weeks. So, you could pick almost any player from their team, and you could, even Odell, how much past his prime he is, but he could go out there and score 2 touchdowns. And A-Chain, Mostert, they drafted Lloyd. A lot of people, right? They drafted Lloyd.
No, Jalen Wright, right? No,
Jalen Wright.
Jalen Wright.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Lloyd went to Green Bay, but they drafted Wright. They wanted Wright to replace Mostert. So, they have depth there. Malik Washington also, they drafted late.
Yeah.
Then you have Waddle.
And we talked about Jalen Wright. Me and Scott actually had a conversation about Jalen Wright and the fact that, we like him a lot in that offense, and the potential is really strong for him if Mostert has any kind of an injury problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's definitely in line to take the ketchup and Mostert role. So I got to throw those in, guys. Go ahead,
No,
Alex.
that's what makes it work.
Go ahead, Alex. Throw in your
I
top
like
five.
the Dolphins pick. The Dolphins probably would have been my six because
Yeah.
just they got to have on paper the quickest RB room out there, and then
Quickest
their
offense.
and
Period.
their wide receiver three. I mean, they have who's the new tight end? Gesicki. I always had faith in Gesicki. No,
No,
he's
no,
not there.
it's
No.
John
Johnny
Smith.
Smith. Yeah.
Yeah, Johnny, that's who it was. So, arrows pointed up for Johnny, and then their wide receiver three is going to be, uh, OBJ, right? If he's got anything left, and if he doesn't, then Malik's going to win that job. Either way, they're going to have, tons of talent at every position there, and so that's a great pick. I don't have them on my list, but they should belong. I also flirted with the Colts just because when you're looking at a talent standpoint, Alec Pierce, who had flashes, is now their wide receiver four in that offense. That's pretty incredible. Josh Downs is the three, we would assume. So for my five, I have the Eagles, who locked down that wide receiver core. I think Dallas Goedert is one of the most disrespected tight ends this year. We know what he can do. He was coming off an injury last year, I believe, and kind of slowed down his production, and they really didn't rely on him much, but he's there. He's talented. At four, I have the Ravens, the addition of Derrick Henry, that's going to elevate them. And, we're hearing a lot of news blurbs from all different directions about Rashad Bateman stepping up his game. And he was, do you guys remember when he was selected in the NFL draft? Was he a first rounder?
Bateman was a first rounder. He was a late first.
Rashad Bateman,
Yeah.
he was.
And then he's just had, injury after injury, and they're talking about how he's elevated. So that could be a big.
Don't let him bait you, man.
Don't let
I see what you did.
That's for sure.
And then at number three, and the only reason I stopped him at number three is because I don't want to be, too over the top, but I have the Green Bay Packers.
I like that one.
Yeah, that one we liked a lot when we were looking at the list.
It's the addition of Marshawn Lloyd, who I think is gonna light a flame under Josh Jacobs, and if Josh Jacobs can't get the job done, it's gonna be Marshawn Lloyd, slowly encroaching on that backfield. And then the fact that when we're doing these drafts, Dontavian Wicks is the last to go, and people love him as a sleeper. He's got his own truthers. But you're talking about, is it Christian Watson? Is it Jalen Reed? Is it Romeo Dobbs? And then is it Musgrave or is it Kraft? And all of those guys have produced at one point in time. So you have a dual threat at running back. You have four capable wide receivers. You have Jordan Love, who looks phenomenal. And then my favorite part, and the reason why they're up here, is the fact that they're going to be relying on two rookies on the defensive front, one at full safety, and I think his name's like Edrin Cooper or something as one of their linebackers. Baby. Yeah, so is he? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So they've got some things to work out on defense, and their division is wide open. You've got Minnesota, the Bears, and who's the other one I'm missing? Oh, the Lions. Right?
The Lions.
Did you just say that division is wide open with the Lions?
No. Okay, the Lions are looking good there, but
wide open
these are
second place.
These are all these are teams. The Lions have a pretty decent defense, but as far as Minnesota,
that's only two games a year. The other two games in that division are not anything to be scared of.
Well, the point being is that the Packers are going to be playing a lot of catch-up football, and they're going to be putting up a lot of numbers, or they're going to have to. So that's why they're number three on my list. And then from there, I got the San Francisco 49ers as they are right now with their wide receiver four is Juwan Jennings, who just got, I think, an extension for 2 years. And he's proven, in the playoffs that he's a capable receiver. And they got this running back. I can't remember his name, but he's really good. Yeah.
White hype, baby. CMC.
Yeah. So if you're looking at the fourth option there, if Pearsall's what he can be, you're looking at your tight end George Kittle, who's, I mean, we know what he can do, when he's asked to do certain things, and you put that together with their defense, and there's really there's no way they don't produce, right? And then number one by default is Kansas City Chiefs. It's Mahomes. He just finds a way. And then I've always had faith in Hollywood Brown, who, when healthy, has produced. He just gets crapped on a lot because he's hardly healthy. But for half of the year, and I think it was 2021, he was the wide receiver 6 through 8 games. So he can do it. And he's definitely an upgrade over Sky Moore and Xavier Worthy. Whether you believe in him or not, definitely an upgrade over Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And then the Rashee Rice is what's on everybody's mind. He might be suspended half of the year, but then again, that means that the other half of the year he's going to be there. So and again, Travis Kelce at tight end. So I think Pacheco keeps that their defense is true, and Mahomes does his thing. And I don't see, if you were going to beat the Chiefs, last year was the year to beat the Chiefs, and nobody could do it. So now they're going to be back and better calculated and reinforced, and that's why I have them at number 1.
All right, it's a pretty good analysis for you gamers. Like I said, try to target these offenses. They're going to produce some pretty good stack options too. If you play DFS, or like I said with best ball, what you want to do is to be successful is get those little mini stacks going on your team, and that's how you can really creep up the standings in these best balls, is these little stacks. So definitely target these offenses. So before I get into our favorite part of the show, I want to just answer one comment that we had on the YouTube, and our buddy Jojo out there was letting us know that we do talk quite a bit about injuries, and that the injuries in the ADP usually are baked in. Now, we do talk about injuries. I think it's not to shy away from people, from picking these players. It's just letting them know that injuries is a part of the game. The way the game has evolved now, with concussions, guys now, if they get concussed, they're probably going to miss the next game. They could miss multiple games. And so the way I look at injuries myself, I just do a 3-part system. If a guy gets injured once, to me, it's like flukish. If he gets injured again, it's a concern. If he gets injured a third time, to me, it's chronic. And I'm just going to use Joe Burrow as an example. A lot of people that listen and know that, not the biggest Joe Burrow guy. And I have my reasons. I just, he's been hurt twice already. The thumb, the ACL, and yeah, he's a great player, but he's 27 years old. If he gets hurt a third time, and it's an if, he may never get hurt again. But imagine he's on your dynasty team, and imagine he trots out again this year, and he tears his Achilles. Now you got a guy on your dynasty team that three seasons in the league, he's gotten you like nothing, for a top guy. So I know injuries are part of the game. People say they're fluky, but like I said, if a guy gets hurt 3 times, to me, it's just, he's a guy that just gets injured. He just has bad genes, or I don't know what, or it's the trainers, or I don't know what's going on. But I mean, some guys that I'm out on, like J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, I'm just not drafting these guys anymore. They're just, they chronically get injured. And then, we've been pretty lucky with Tua, and with those scary concussion injuries, he did stay healthy last year, but he's another guy that, you're always worried about, when's the next one coming, so, injuries are, can be baked in the ADP, but, maybe they are fluky. I know Keenan Allen early in his career was injured a lot, and people were stamping that tag on him, and he's been pretty healthy at an advanced age. So, great question or comment from Jojo. I love to hear those comments. And if you listeners add more comments, we'll try to get to them, and whether they're good or bad. Like I said, we love pushback, and, because we want to talk about it and brainstorm about all this stuff. So, we really appreciate, keep them coming. So now we're going to get into our favorite part of the show. I don't remember really what it's called. Can somebody help me with this? Sean, can you help me with this? What was this part of the show?
Trade talk.
Trade talks. Everyone's favorite part of the show. So before we get into the trade talks, we have Connor on here, and he wants to talk about the Keep Trade Cut power rankings. So I've told you listeners in the past about Keep Trade Cut. We like that website. They do a real good job with the Dynasty community rating players, and they have pretty good trade calculator, and also you can import your league in there also, and you can bring up the power rankings of your leagues when we talk about trades and everything. And we didn't really dig that deep into it until Connor got into it. So I'm gonna let Connor explain it to you, and then while we go over these trades. So go ahead, Connor. Go ahead and let the listeners know where they can get to this information.
Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty easy. You just go to keep trade cut, go to league power rankings. In the general chat of your league, you scroll down to the bottom and there's a lead ID. As soon as you touch it, it copies it already automatically. You just paste it in there, and you can go look at your league. Right now, I have pulled up the league that we're going to review the trade for. El Super Bisto, Gary. I was telling him I was going to roast him. I actually don't disagree with his trade that much, but we'll look at keep trade cut here for a second. I'm not a big fan of their calculator. I know a lot of people live by it, die by it, but if there's somebody doing that, you can easily throw in a couple picks, and you can work somebody over keep trade cut. But the thing I want to talk about is their league power rankings. You copy and paste your team in there, and you can go look at each team where they're strong at and where they're weak at. I utilize this tool to see like where I'm weak at. So in the league I'm looking at here, I'm at the top. Usually happens, but I'm weak at tight end. So I want to look at the person that's strong at tight end. So I want it tells you where they're ranked based on the Dynasty rankings. So if I want a tight end, I want to go look at the people that are strong. If I want to sell somebody, say I'm really strong at wide receiver, I want to go look at the people that are really weak at wide receiver. I think that's a great tool and easy to look at. You go talk to them, start conversations that way. That's what I usually do. And to brag to your friends, you can look at the rankings, see, and just show off a little bit. I try to do that just sometimes, just rub it in their face. But it's really heavily based on picks as well. So if you keep it, if you can look at players only, you can look at starters, you can look at quarterbacks. There's so many different options. You can look at value per age. So it breaks down the league based on age and value. So there's so many different tools that you can look at.
Got you. Well, that's some good information there, and you can see how humble Connor is when it comes to his dynasty teams. And now that after listening to him, I think we definitely need to get a podcast dynasty league going. I want to see how this is going to go.
I want to get in one of his dynasty leagues so I can be a part of this, because I feel like somebody needs to be taken down a peg or two over here.
Yeah, we may have to work over this. We may have to work over this young whippersnapper and show him how the old guys do it. The old guys take you to the back of the woodshed. That's what the old guys do.
So I just want to touch on this just a little bit. They rank it 1 to 99. I'm at 99. So I have the perfect team in this league. So you can't get much better than that.
Oh, this is great.
So
all right. Well, then you said you don't think this trade is that far off. I mean, I'm looking at it, and I mean, it's been just a reoccurring occurrence every pod that just Super Biesto gets just taken back to the woodshed and trades. And I'm looking at this trade, and yet, I mean, the big elephant in the room is Justin Jefferson right in your face. That's the big placard right in front of your face. But he basically traded Dak Prescott, who I think is still in his prime, definitely going to throw the ball. He's not going to be handing the ball off. Deshaun Watson is a descending asset. I know Sean's going to agree with me. I think Shakir's going to handle that Cole Beasley role in the slot. So I really love that. And that's for 2025 second. And then basically St. Brown and Jefferson, I have them on the same tier. So I think it's kind of a wash. So to me, it's basically, C. Sims got an upgraded quarterback, a significant upgrade, and, a pretty good, I think I would take Shakir over any random 2025 second, especially with Buffalo lacking a little bit on the offensive side, just having Coleman as their one. I mean, Shakir could be, probably not the second target, but definitely the third target in that offense. So, Alex, what do you think about this trade? So like I said, I'm definitely on the sim side.
I'm looking at keep trade cut right now because I think the Shakir versus the mid, say it's a mid 2025 second. They're 2032 versus 2711 in favor of Shakir. I think Justin Jefferson's still the best player in this trade, and I think that's why Al Supero, his name's Gary. I think that's why Gary made the trade, because he's got a pretty nice wide receiving core over there and doesn't really need Shakir. He's got our guy Malachi Corley as his wide receiver 6. It looks like. So he can afford to get rid of Shakir and kind of kick the can down the road. That's why he probably swapped him out for the second. I think Prescott, in my eyes, it's Justin Jefferson is right above Amon-Ra St. Brown in Dynasty. Maybe not even for this year, but in Dynasty. And I think Prescott's the next biggest asset in this trade. And I would take the sim side all day long, especially if he's competing and he could use Shakir. I mean, you kind of just helped out the next guy in your league. Not a fan of Watson.
And like I said, usually I'm the type of guy that, I always, if I'm real close on a trade, I always look for the best player. And I mean, Justin Jefferson is the best player in the deal. I mean, not by like a whole lot, because I think St. Brown is like right there, like a 1B. So I still think, Jefferson's the best player in the deal, but I just think it's just a little too rich for me. Sean, I know you're probably going to take the Shakir side.
Oh, 100%. I'm taking the Shakir side. I mean, it's like a no-brainer to me, honestly, when I look at it. You're getting Amon-Ra St. Brown to Justin Jefferson. I mean, there's a strong possibility Amon-Ra outscores Justin Jefferson this season, the way that everything is going forward. So, that could be more points in his pocket right there. I'd be shocked if Dak Prescott doesn't outscore Deshaun Watson by quite a few. That's just what I anticipate. And then Khalil Shakir, the 2025 second with the team that he has, and now adding these assets, that could be a, bottom 3 pick in that round, So now you're looking at Shakir versus like the 210, 211, like 209 maybe. Like I'm taking every single piece of the other trade, with maybe the exception of Amon-Ra and St. Brown, or St. Brown versus Jefferson, but that is so close that the gap between the other 4 pieces just does not make sense. So I'm not trying to dog you, Gary. You're probably a great guy, but I think maybe you should talk to your boy Colin over here a little bit, or Connor over here a little bit. I'm sorry, before you make these trades next time.
He's not using keep trade cut, is he?
No, but I want to mention one thing. I'm not sure what Gary was trying to do here. I think he had a strong competing team before this, and I think he sold off two assets that he could have easily competed with this year. I mean, look at his team. I mean, he has Lamar, DJ Moore. He has some young pieces, but I mean, his team was built to compete. And then selling Dak and Amon-Ra. I mean, I think Amon-Ra, I think he outscores Justin Jefferson this year. I mean, I believe so, but it could be very close. But I mean, I think Dak probably as QB at least top 10. I'm out on Watson. I don't think he finishes the season as their starting quarterback, but
you think he gets Russell Wilson?
Russell Wilson?
Do you think he gets Russell Wilson out of Cleveland?
No, I don't know. I don't know what happens. I think he gets injured most likely, or I think the massages really messed him up. I'm not gonna lie.
Tweaked his neck or something,
I think he's missing the massages. I'm not quite sure, but I'm just not sure what he was doing with the team there. I think getting Justin Jefferson's perfect, but I think he oversold it for a competing team, at least to me.
Yeah, I don't think this makes his team any better. Like that's kind of what I'm looking at is, yeah, Justin Jefferson's the big sexy piece, but I mean, like Connor said, I mean, Amon-Ra is 1B, if not, 1A at the end of the year over Justin Jefferson. So I'm really trying hard to agree with El Super Biesto and some of these trades, but I just can't. It's just he gave, like Connor said, he just gave in a contending team. He just gave away a little too much, and I
Well,
just
there's a world where Amon-Ra is the wide receiver one at the end of the season, and Justin Jefferson's not even in the top 10. That's not completely out of the realm of possibilities.
yeah, for
Based
sure.
off of Keep Trade Cut, we have Gary is ranked number 4 in this league, and the person he traded with, Sims, is ranked number 5. And without that trade, Sims would have Deshaun Watson, Derek Carr, Joe Flacco, and Justin Fields. So he basically elevated somebody to come and contend with him, and that's the problem I have is when you're trading with somebody, you're elevating their team in a trade like this. The second's fine and all that stuff, but you're giving them extra weapons and basically inviting them to come and compete with you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a depth piece he's going to use this year, and you got to wait all through the season before you can even utilize your returning piece for that. So,
did anybody put that trade in the trade calculator just to see if it was like even, and that's why the trade was even done?
Not the whole thing, but the power of overlays.
well, as you see here.
Yeah, that'd be just interesting to see because like Connor said, and I've agreed too, that the keep trade calculator is not,
I use it as a gauge to kind of help me a little bit,
use
but then I always adjust afterwards based on my thoughts.
No, even Keep Trade Cut has the Amon-Ra side, or no,
it's probably by like 3,500 points or something, right?
Keep Trade Cut actually has the Jefferson side by quite a bit.
Oh my
God!
Like 2,000 points.
Oh, really? They overrate Jefferson like crazy.
And
they
overrate Jefferson, yeah.
Yeah, they do. I remember that.
Or they overrate Watson.
Yeah, they have Watson at QB 26, and Dak at 15. It's really
15. That's low for Dak, I think. I would think.
Yeah.
Well, it's because it's Dynasty, so they got him
That's
down.
True.
Yeah, Dak is 30 years old. Watson's 28, so.
Yeah, but it's not that big of a difference. 2 years.
Yeah, I don't know, man. See, that right there is an explanation as to why you don't use the trade calculator to do a trade. Yeah. Because every single one of us said it was completely opposite of what the trade calculator said.
Yep. And I think that's what Gary does. I hate to hate on Gary, but I've traded with him quite a few times.
I can tell by where your team's ranked.
Yes. I don't even know. This was a startup. This was actually a startup that I completely punted. Alex, I've never done a Robin
reverse
draft.
Order?
What do you call it?
The reverse order?
Yeah, I've never done that before. And I absolutely love doing that. And I'll let them,
what we do is it's a startup draft. It's a startup draft, but what we do is we allow you to use your 2026 draft picks in place of your 2025 draft picks. And based off of the initial startup order, 1 through 12, we reverse that order, and those are going to be your rookie picks. So if you have the 112, you have the 101.
Yeah.
Rookie draft.
Yeah. That's the way it should be.
It allows you to make trades with your rookie picks, and it's kind of the most accommodating format to do that.
Yeah, that's the way.
So I had one pick in this league. I had one pick through the first 17 rounds. I had CeeDee Lamb, and then I sold my second through 16 rounds for first round picks this year and next year. So that's why my team is ranked first. I'm not
putting a lot of work in all those dynasty leagues.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to enough of Gary L Super BF.
Poor Gary, I feel so bad. We were always beating down on Gary.
He wanted to be on the pod today so bad.
Yeah.
He wanted to be on the pod today so bad, and he's like, I just can't do it.
He had a chance. So Gary, you smell, and you can't.
He's had 2 chances. He's bailed on us twice. So
yeah, he loves his wife and stuff,
Okay, so let's go on to another one. So you know what? Since this is Connor's segment. Oh wait, no, this isn't on that one, is it? This is a different one. Okay, so this isn't on the Keep Trade Cut then. So this is Corey 4466, and he did a trade with our Bills extraordinaire co-host Sean. Sean sent away Drake May, Terry McLaurin, and 2025 second round, and received Anthony Richardson in return. So I'm going to go to Connor first. What do you think about this one?
I like the Anthony Richardson side. I think it looks. I'm not sure what you're doing with your team. You sold May and the second, and then McLaurin. I assume you're probably rebuilding. You don't really care too much about McLaurin, but I'm not sure. But I do think Anthony Richardson is probably QB. What is he, 6? Is he QB 6 in Dynasty? Maybe QB 5.
Yeah,
I think
he's
getting
definitely top. He's probably top 5.
top 5 or 6. Yeah. Getting a QB in Superflex that's top 5. I think there's not many deals you wouldn't do that don't involve first round picks. I mean, Drake May's fallen to the 106, 107 in some drafts, 108 sometimes.
I got him at the 109 in this draft.
Yeah, it's exactly. So I'm 100% taking the Richardson side. Competing or rebuilding, honestly. Although I would like to hear your thoughts on what your team is actually doing there.
I mean, I can definitely give it to you if you want me to do it now, or you want to wait to see what Alex has to say first.
I'll let Alex go, then I'll go, and then you can go ahead and defend your trade then, Sean. So Alex, go ahead.
I agree with Connor here, man. Give me Anthony Richardson all day. I think he did a good job of just piecing together some people. Those assets might not be worth much in a year. You know, the second's probably going to be the one that remains, valuable. We'll see what happens with May, but I think you locked in a solid quarterback there. I like the trade.
Yeah, and I concur. I'm not gonna get too much into it. I mean, I got Anthony Richardson as my number 4 quarterback in Dynasty startups. So McLaurin's a little, getting a little bit up there. He's playing with a rookie quarterback who, he's a good one, but still rookie quarterback. And then the 2025 second, it's probably going to be, I mean, I didn't really look at the whole team construction, but I'm assuming it's probably a mid to late pick. And I'm not really in on the 2025 class anyways. So, goes back to the best player in the deal, which is A Rich. And, like I said before, I think his ceiling potential could be possibly 1.01 in Superflex in the future with his ceiling.
1.02.
So go ahead, Sean.
So basically, pretty much what happened with this deal is Corey actually came on and took over a team. So it was an orphan team, and it was in bad shape. I'm not gonna lie. That team, I think Anthony Richardson, Jameson Williams, and Javonte Williams, I think were really the only assets that he had that I wasn't even interested in. It was pretty bad. So he was looking to kind of start a rebuild and kind of go that route. And this is a team that I had taken over prior and rebuilt as an orphan. And now I'm in this position where I'm ready to compete with this squad. So my biggest issue with this team was I had no depth at my quarterback position. I had Jared Goff, I had Josh Allen, and then that was it. I think Trey Lance, I want to say, was my other quarterback, and that was it. So I really needed some help. So I ended up basically looking at this. I had May. I had taken May. I want to say I got Penix as well in that rookie draft. So I ended up snagging a couple of rookie quarterbacks. And when he took over that squad, I knew he wanted to build some receiver depth and he wanted future picks. So I figured Drake May is a good asset to give him an opportunity to take. So I threw that together and sent it his way. He accepted it. So, my team now standing where I'm at now, I still have Penix, sitting on my taxi. And then I have Richardson, Goff, and Allen now to make my move. And my receiver depth was pretty good. So I was okay to give up Terry McLaurin because I feel like I've got some young receivers. I want to say I got Roman Wilson and the kid from Cincinnati in that draft as well. So yes, Burton. So I have pretty solid depth that I feel like I was able to move McLaurin and not hurt myself, coming forward, because I expect at least one of these rookies I have to be at least playable towards midseason. So, that was kind of why I did what I did on my end. And, Corey was happy with the return. Personally myself, I expected a counter for more, but I was okay to go with this.
Would you have given him May and Penix instead of McLaurin?
I would have probably wanted to get more back in return just because I feel like the Penix potential value is too much for me to give up. Part of the reason I was willing to give up McLaurin was exactly what Scott mentioned, was his age. And, he's got a couple of years left, but it's still kind of an unknown situation. And it could very well turn out that by the time Daniels gets to where he has the opportunity to make a receiver really relevant, Merrick Lawrence already beyond that wall. So I was okay to get rid of him where I feel like this could be potentially his ceiling right now, value wise. And coming moving forward, he might just go down from here. So
That's an excellent thought process, man. I like that. That's the way I play Dynasty too. Is you got to be able to think ahead and consider. He's got to get adjusted to this rookie quarterback, and by the time he does that, he's got maybe that back half of this year and some of next year, and before he starts falling off, that's pretty good.
yeah,
Right?
and then you're looking at him being like 29 and a half, I think, by then. So
And
a first full season where there's real a good connection with him, it'll be his 30-year-old season.
If May doesn't fall to the 109, you think you're able to make this deal? You think that that's Bowers or who else is going in 109?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I would have been able to, because I honestly did not anticipate getting JJ or May at 109. I think I want to say me and Scott actually discussed this draft going on prior to me getting to that position, and we talked about me taking Bo Nix at 109, thinking that both of us just assumed there was no way May or JJ would even get to me. So like you said, I would have had to try to throw Nix at him at that point, and I don't know if Bo Nix would have been enough. I would have definitely had to add more than just the second and McLaurin.
I doubt it, but
So
no, you did some
before we move on from Dynasty, I wanted to say something about the way that Ballsville runs its Dynasty and how our orphan season works. So right now, if you're online, if you're looking for leagues and stuff, you're seeing a lot of people that are just scrambling. There's so many orphans out there. So many people wanted Dynasty when Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase were out there. Everybody wanted a piece. They started Dynasty, found out they weren't cut out for it, and now there's tons of orphans everywhere. And I'm seeing online bunch of people trying to fill them. If you play in the Ballsville Dynasty leagues, we have a process where all our payments for the future years are due on April 1st. That's our deadline. And if you're not active by April 1st, it's been a couple months of hiatus after the Super Bowl. If you're not active at that point, then you're not the kind of Dynasty material that we're looking for. So that's our cutoff date. And then this year we had a total out of all 10 leagues, we had 3 orphans, which is pretty impressive in itself. And it took less than 24 hours to fill those because we compile a waiting list of people that want to be part of that dynasty. And 24 hours was as long as we had orphans. And my whole point of doing that is that if you're going to take over a team, like Sean and his people are doing, we want to give you all the offseason to make the trades, to adjust the team how you want. Because if you join like in July or in August and stuff, and you take over an orphan, people have already traded their assets. They've already set themselves up for the season. And now you're coming into a league where nobody's willing to make moves with you because they're all set up and they've sold their draft picks. So that's why we do it so early. And it's part of the reason why people love to be in the dynasty leagues is because we're well run, well organized, and all this that I just said is all in our bylaws. So you know what to expect on the way in.
Got you. Well said, Alex.
Excited to jump in on some dynasty with Ballsville.
No, that's great because I actually, I'm not in a dynasty league in the Ballsville, so that's why I'm excited to when I think D Payne Daniel, our ADP specialist, brought up the idea of, hey, let's get a Ballsville pod dynasty league going. I'm like, I don't have one. I'm ready. Let's do it. So I'm pretty excited to get into one of those.
Are you sure you guys want to get into a dynasty league with me? I mean, you see my trades. That Levis trade last week was epic.
All I know is I'm first person I'm reaching out to is El Super Biesto and tell him we have a spot for him in this dynasty league that we want him to be a part of. So I want to make sure that we get good old Gary in here. I know
great content.
So I want to I know we don't really have a third, but I want to go over a trade, and this one's just for me. I guess I'm being a little selfish, but I have a good panel on here, and I want to see how would they if they like this trade or not that I made. So it's one of the dynasty leagues I'm in. I'm not going to ramble on about my team. I'm just going to give you the nuts and bolts. So it was a startup 3 years ago. I won it my first year. My quarterbacks, it's super flex format. My 2 quarterbacks in Superflex are Mahomes and Hurts. I ended up with Breece Hall, and then we start three receivers. But my receivers are Dotson, Christian Watson, and I acquired George Pickens in a trade. So my thought process is when I run Dynasty, I go by like 4-year windows. If I don't win a championship in 4 years, I'm just going to tear it down and start over. So I go by like 4 years. So we're in year 4 now, and like I said, I won a championship 3 years ago. I want to try to win one more. So I made a trade, and I acquired Justin Jefferson, and I sent Brian Robinson 2024 first, which was the 106. He ended up taking Malik Neighbors, and then I sent away a 2025 first. So 2 firsts, Brian Robinson for Justin Jefferson, and because I want to go for it, I'm all in. I'm going to give up the next couple years because I want to try to win this one, and if not, I'll just probably start tearing it down. So I'll start with Sean. Help me out. What do you think? Do you think I did okay, or do you think maybe you would have just kept the picks and maybe just grab Neighbors?
I mean, if you look at it, just the assets, like straight up assets, you overpaid, but that's just straight up assets. Looking at it that way, I would feel that way because I like the idea of that Neighbors pick. You know what I mean? Basically, you gave up Neighbors Robinson and your 2025 first for Jefferson, which to me is a slight overpay. Not a lot, but a slight overpay. But I like why you did it, and the reason behind it, I agree with. I would definitely make a move like that with that receiving core on a team that I'm trying to push for a championship with. I would have no problem making that move. I don't think Brian Robinson is enough of an asset. And, your other assets, I don't know if you made this trade prior to knowing it was Neighbors or not. I'm assuming you did. So, at that point, you were giving up one known asset, and 2 picks. So I'm okay with that.
What about you, Connor?
I'm taking the Jefferson side 100% of the time. I think if you can get Jefferson without giving up 3 picks, I've seen Jefferson sold for 4 first round picks. I mean, I'm not.
Was it El Super Visto?
No, I mean, I'm taking Jefferson, and I'm not even thinking twice about it. I'd send away 2 firsts right now, and almost every single league I'm in for Justin Jefferson. I would send the 101. I would send Caleb Williams and a 25 first for Jefferson. So
you still have him as like the top Dynasty wide receiver,
I think he's
everybody else?
I think he's 1A, 1B with Lamb. I think Chase is 3. But I think Jefferson, every time he's on the field, he hasn't been even without Kirk Cousins, he was still producing. We'll see what JJ does, but yeah, I think he's 1A, 1B with Lamb.
What about you, Alex?
So I got a Dynasty startup coming up on Friday, and I'm looking at the draft room right now, and Justin Jefferson is the 5th player in sleeper ADP, and Malik Neighbors is the 27th player in sleeper ADP. So I would gladly, I would sell my, 3rd round, my 3rd and my 2025 first to move up and get a first for that first round to take JJ. I would do that in a heartbeat. Brian Robinson is an expiring asset. He's got Eckler there now, and I don't think he's going to be, that prominent down the road. So I would make the trade for JJ. Before the NFL draft, we were talking about how there's 2 pitfall spots for wide receiver, and it was going to be New England, which doesn't look so bad now. But the other one was the Giants, and we're talking about Daniel Jones, who's, iffy at best as a passer. And yeah, sure, Neighbors is going to get the targets, but what kind of targets are they going to be? We don't know if he's going to struggle this year. We don't know what their situation is going to be like for next year. He's going to have to get acclimated with the new quarterback, most likely. And then just down the road, we're going to have a guy who's had trouble to start his career, possibly, and then still on track to figure it out. And I think JJ is just the elite talent, and I would gladly make that trade for Jefferson.
Okay, well, thanks, guys. Because like I said, it wasn't really like I was on the fence. The guy I traded with was he just took on an orphan, and he already had the 101, so he was was trying to build some assets up and just wanted some picks. So
who went at the 104 and 105? Was it quarterbacks, or did Adunze?
It was pretty standard. It went Caleb. It went Marvin Harrison Jr. It went Jaden Daniels. It went I want to say Drake May, then it went Bowers, and then and then Neighbors. It was Neighbors was the it was the 106. I can't believe he
Oh,
dropped.
106.
That's why I was sitting there and I'm like, I didn't need a quarterback. So that's I'm sitting at 106. I'm like, who am I going to get at 106 that's going to help my team right now? If a quarterback falls, me being a quarterback hoarder I was going to just be forced to take a quarterback, but it's not helping me win a championship, a third quarterback. I'm not rebuilding. So, and I could have, I guess, used Bowers because my tight end is Freiermuth. So I definitely need an upgrade at tight end, but I'm like, is Bowers really going to push me over the top? So I wanted to try to, I thought I have to move that 106. I think I went to the guy that had Chase and he didn't want to do it. So I went to the Jefferson guy and I mean, actually I just sent 2 firsts for him and he countered back with Brian Robinson. I'm like, okay, boom. Deal. Done. So
Like it.
Do you think Brian Robinson's anything this year? Do we think he's the lead back? Do we think he's?
I think they're in a timeshare and it's not really, much.
Yeah.
It's like D'Angelo. What was the old Carolina Panthers? D'Angelo
Angelo
Williams,
Williams.
Jonathan Stewart. It's kind of like that scenario.
Yeah, I mean,
I think he's
Brian
a
Robinson was
flex option.
Robinson was a flex guy in my lineup. I mean, I actually had Jalen Warren as my number 2, not Robinson. So I got Brees and then I had Jalen Warren as my number 2, and I just stuck Brian Robinson in my flex. So, I mean, he was my 3rd back. I think I have a couple other straggler backs, but I'm a little weak at running back.
Eckler is a fantasy player. He's tuned into the fantasy realm that we are. Expect him to want to overproduce and silence all the haters. I'm kind of sneakily in on Eckler this year. I think he's going to come back and try to put up some numbers just so he can,
Yes. So, but no, thanks a lot for the, for the help there. And then before we wrap it up for the night, like I said, I want to thank the listeners again for subscribing. Like I said, we're at 70 subscriptions. Our second pod that we've had over 100 views, and it really pumps us up that you guys like our content. We really want to try to get these out and have different guests on. Like, I want to thank Connor for coming on and giving his input on the keep trade cut and all the other information that he was able to provide for us today. I want to thank Sean for coming back in as co-host, and obviously we all look up to Alex as is putting this Ballsville platform together for all of us to meet new friends and have a really different fantasy football experience, because this is definitely a different fantasy football experience than what's going on right now out at Sleeper. So until next time, Ballsville gamers, we are out.